Alright, what's up everybody? Episode number 28 of Final Boss TV. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully that intro music, once I get it all done it'll be better, but right now you gotta deal with my stupid sound effects. It's fine. And tonight, we're talking about rogues. Rogues. We have Daltin here from Something Wicked, and FieryDemise from The Horsemen, who also works on ShadowCraft, which is a model, not a simulation. We'll talk about later in the show. But first, joining us, hopefully, until she either becomes 8-bit Anna or explodes the internet, the lovely host of Final Boss TV, NFL. Hi, Anna.
Hey, how you doing today?
I think we're good. So we went over this a little bit in the show, but just so everyone doesn't freak out when they're watching this, if there are technical difficulties, it's not our fault this time. For once.
Yeah, blame Time Warner, as usual.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I've been DCing a little bit intermittently. I had some connection issues at Raid the other night, so sorry, show, if I DC. Sorry in advance.
Okay, that's fine. We should be good, though. And from the same guild, because we don't play favorites or anything around here. Of course not. Mr. Daltin, thank you for being on the show with us today, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me. Hopefully, it'll be a lot of fun today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully the snow doesn't come in your window and take over.
It's awful.
How much is out there right now? How many feet? 17?
There is a little over 1 foot outside my house right now.
Ugh.
It took me a good 45 minutes to get my car taken out of or get it cleaned off and ready to go for work. So it's, my snow scraper broke too. So.
Oh, God.
It was not.
No.
So the other day, I had frost on my car, and I had no idea how to deal with it. I went outside, and I'm like, what is this stuff? Why can't I see through my windshield?
It's a terrible thing. No one should have to do this.
I know. Right?
Well, hopefully his name melts the snow and ice here. But Mr. FieryDemise from The Horsemen, and also works on that ShadowCraft. Hello, sir. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We went over, I guess, when we were setting up the show here, that this man has a fine beard and a fine head of hair that both Daltin and I were rather jealous of. So that's the
You're
first.
Just biased towards people with beards, Ben.
Am I? I mean, I have a.
Yes, you are.
I guess so. What can I do? I can't grow a big. I can't do it. It doesn't happen. It just looks terrible. It looks like a little boy who tried and failed. It's awful. But
well, let's hear a little bit more from our guests about where we can find you guys on the internet and where we can see the kind of stuff that you do. And Daltin, let's start with you. Any forums that you frequent, places where we can hear about your thoughts on rogues?
Not at the current time. It's going to be more of a Warlords thing. I was pretty quiet up until I came to Something Wicked, and I've been here for a year now, so I'm going to start getting my foot in the door a little bit, and everyone will hear a lot more from me coming up in the next 8 months, 12 months, whenever Warlords actually launches. Are
you planning on building like a guide or an intro thing in Warlords, or just a lot of beta feedback?
I'm not sure. We do a lot of beta work. Got to help Omega with his DBM stuff, so we do spend a lot of time on PTR, so hopefully I'll have a little bit more to say about Warlords than I had to say about MOP when it was still in beta.
Oh,
yep.
Good.
I've got a feeling that if people follow you on your Twitter and at your Twitch stream, they'll be hearing more from you when the Warlord stuff comes out.
Yeah, can't stream raids right now, but I will definitely be streaming any kind of PTR stuff that I...
Oh, I have a feeling that we'll be streaming a lot of PTR stuff. At least I will be, until someone tells me not to.
Yeah, I'm going to be. So, I mean, I'll be there. Yep. I'll hopefully, maybe I'll actually do a 24-hour live stream. I tried last year for the launch, and I got like 17 hours in, and I was like, I'm dying! So, we'll see. What about you, Fiery?
So I'm on Twitter at FieryDemise, which I think will show on the bottom thing. And then I also blog at my blog Rogue Chat, which is roguechat.wordpress.com. I'm run around the official US forums and the MMO Champion forums, and EJ occasionally. I don't stream because my internet's not very good.
But you are the theory. Oh, goodness me.
Oh, hang on.
What happened? You're in a dark portal all of a sudden. Oh no. Oh, there it goes. And he's back.
I kicked a...
Did you just cast Vanish in real life? What?
Something like that. Something like that.
Really? Did that just happen? That's fine. All right,
Something
good.
like that.
Awesome. So we have a whole lot of topics to get to. I don't want to dilly-dally a whole lot. And so let's go right into this. First off, I wanted to sort of open with a bit of a for both of you to get you all on the same page and feeling like you rogues do. Do you guys miss making your own poisons?
Thistle brew. What is it called? Thistle tea. No, wait. Thistle tea was what gave you back energy.
Yeah, but
I miss it a lot.
You miss it a lot?
I do. A lot of, all the other hybrids or healing classes that have a DPS off spec, we don't have anything like that to keep in our bags, per se. So whenever I had my 200 vials of poison, that was me feeling like I was part of everybody and what everybody else is doing. But I'm an RPG player. I like that aspect of playing a rogue. I love the Vanish Powder. I love the blinding. I love make my poisons. I was very upset to see it taken away.
Yeah. Now it's just like a cooldown. You just hit the button, right? It's not.
Yeah,
like
it's a drop down menu, and you.
Oh, it's a portal menu.
Yeah.
Gross. What about you, Fiery?
I never actually made poisons. I didn't start playing till Wrath, so I never actually had to make poisons. And I'll be honest, I don't really think I missed anything. I don't think it adds a lot to sort of have to go farm random things in the world. I want to raid. That's what I do.
He's a Wrath baby.
Yep, something like that.
Oh,
we went over that term though, but isn't really. It's been like 4 years.
I'm a Wrath baby too, so it's okay.
Yeah,
I can
like
make
it
fun of
doesn't.
Wrath babies.
Yeah.
What is it? My guild leader said. He said it's been 3 expansions. Wrath babies are all grown up now.
Yeah. You're all grown up. So on top of poisons though, you also have like what makes you feel like a rogue still. We went over this in our little pre-show a bit, but like you have stealth, okay, pickpocketing. Okay, I guess that glyph is pretty cool, but anything else? Traps, disarming, or lockboxes? Like, does any of that really make you feel like a rogue still? Like, how much of that does it impact you in game, Fiery?
I get my mailboxes full of lockboxes from people asking me to pick them.
People really mail you those?
Yeah, my guild mailed them to me, and they get them back within 30 days.
Within 30 days?
See, I know a rogue. I don't know if this was you who said this, Dalton, but they said that they take everything valuable out of the lockboxes and then mail back all of the non-valuable stuff. So
is that...
I can't confirm that was me, or if that was Tarima, but one of us probably said that.
Yes.
That's awful.
No, I don't do that.
Sure.
I'm very trustworthy.
A friend of mine that I mail my lockboxes to opens them and then sends them back the unpopped lockbox, so it says open, so you just open in that way, so you know you're not getting stolen from. But yeah,
that's a nice rogue.
Yeah, that's a nice rogue.
Steal things from them that way. You just take the thing. As long as you don't take everything out, you're okay.
Oh, there's.
But that flavorful stuff is really important. Like, I know as a paladin, I really appreciate like the shiny special mount that I get and Crusader aura and the ability to, like, I don't know, cast random heals on myself when my rocket boots fail. I mean, do you pickpocket stuff a lot as a rogue? I mean, do you really appreciate some of those flavorful glyphs, or do you feel like there could be more done to make you feel like your class is unique and special?
It's all wasted right now.
Oh.
I don't remember the last
So
time I
sad.
pickpocketed anything. The only thing you can pickpocket anymore are health potions, and there's like a 1% chance to get a gem. It's just a complete waste. I mean, we used to get Happy Fun Rock from a mob on Kalimdor, I think, and that was the extent of pickpocketing. And they gave us something with Hagara's, with the Fathers of the Fangs of the Father item, but that's it. Between the random lockboxes I get, they kind of took out our toolkit a little bit.
And
sucks.
The glyph that makes you transform into what you pickpocket, though, is only certain things, right? Is it still... You can only pickpocket humanoids in the first place, but they're like... You can still get dinosaurs somehow, apparently? Like, is there a little...
There was a Mogu outside of outside of Throne of Thunder. There was some like Mogu that you could pickpocket, and you would transform into him, and he was huge. And then everyone in the raid would Sky Mirror. At least in our raid would do that.
Of course.
There was a Klaxi mob you could pickpocket.
Yeah.
And then you could get bug wings for a little bit. But Blizzard had to change. I think they nerfed it, or took it out of the game, maybe. One day I couldn't do it anymore. I was either not doing it right, or they simply took it out.
Nerfing's fine. It's all Blizzard does.
There's a really fun rogue-only quest chain that involves pickpocket. Out in Ravenholt, it gives you this coin bag where you go pickpocket people in the world, and then you can fly by throwing coins to the ground. It's really amazing. It's called like Survivor's Bag of Coins.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. That's right. So that's kind of neat. How often do you actually fiddle with that?
I used it like once and threw myself off cliffs a couple times, and then gave up.
Yep.
Oh, it's this cool thing you can sort of fly, and I used it once.
Well,
Yep.
Well, speaking of the flavor of your class, how long have you been a rogue? Was there any class that you played before you were a rogue, or did you kind of start as a rogue? Go with Dalton first.
I rolled a rogue first, and back in Burning Crusade, right around the time Mac Theridon's Lair was considered progression content, was when I started playing. I didn't roll an alt until Ice Crown Citadel.
Wow.
I rolled a paladin, a hunter, and I have a monk too that's shelved because that wasn't fun to me. But hunter and paladin are pretty fun, but I've been a rogue from the beginning, and I really don't plan on changing for warlords.
And how about you, FieryDemise? Have you always been a rogue since
I've always been a rogue, yeah. I play alts badly. I failed at Ellie Shaman once, which I hear is hard, so
Okay.
I'm not good at alts. I'm very bad at everything other than the rogue.
Okay, well, I guess that's a stout answer. That's fine. And then the other question we were going to think about here is that that we had to define in the pre-show was, you're the only pure DPS melee class in the game. Everything else that's in melee has hybridized in some way, or can heal, or range, or tank, or whatever. So, what do you both feel about that? Like, your last remaining only like class that can do all you can do is just all 3 specs are just damage only. So, is that fine? You good with that? Or what are your thoughts, Dalton?
I don't mind it. If I wanted to heal, I would heal. You know, that's my feeling of it. So I don't mind the pure aspect of it at all.
Okay, Fiery?
I like the fact that my GM doesn't have to yell at me that, Fiery, you should go get a healing spec, because I never have to worry about that, which is nice.
That's true, okay.
And it also probably means Rogue gets to be a little OP sometimes, because Blizzard wants to make sure, because this is all you've got, so if Rogues are bad at DPS, they're just bad in general. So I think Rogues probably get to be a little OP sometimes for that reason.
Yeah. Alrighty. You guys don't... I know I teased this when we were meeting the first time. You don't think Rogues need a tanking spec?
No.
No.
No,
so sad.
Don't put that on me. No.
Oh, no.
No
well, you know, there is that other game where there is a rogue spec that has a tanking spec. That other
I wonder
that
someone plays that exact class.
Oh, really? So that is the class that you play.
Who would that be? I can't... And what game are we talking about? I don't even know.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I'm always jealous of classes that have more than one DPS spec. I'm rolled an alt right now that is the first class I've ever played that has more than one DPS spec, because I always play hybrids, and it's so weird. I have a hunter now, and I'm like, I can be BM, or I can be survival, and both of them do damage. But which do I pick? I don't know, it's very confusing. It's too much for me. I just want one DPS spec, and then I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah? Yeah, it's weird, because like, I could heal or range DPS or melee DPS, and granted, I'm sort of in Fiery's position right there that I don't really do either of them, because I'm just bad at them. I'm so much muscle memory and enhancement that if I go resto, I'm just like, healing rate and chain heal, and then I just stand there. If I go elemental, I'm like, what are all these buttons? And you have to spam, so I feel you on that one. You play a class you're not familiar with for a long time, and you're just like, so...
Well, let's talk a little bit about those rogue specs, because I know that sometimes different specs are at the top and different specs are at the bottom. Has there been a big change in mists from the beginning to the end of the expansion about which spec is the best? And are there any trends as far as which spec is the best in PvE and which specs work? I know we talked a little bit about this after Raid, so let's go with FieryDemise first.
In T14, it was mostly assassination. Combat you played for the cleave fights, dogs, Garlon, a couple others, and sub was a joke. T15, it was all assassination. There were a couple of people who played combat, and you could get away with it because combat had a brokenly OP set bonus, but otherwise it was a pretty dead spec. And then T16, assassination's probably the weakest spec now because Blizzard nerfed it in a nerf that I think was a bad idea and ill-considered, but I'm sure we can talk about that later.
Sure. Okay. And Dalton? Anything on the add with that?
Pretty much the same thing. You played combat for Garalon and just the dogs, and then by the time you got to Siege of Orgrimmar, you were assassination until you got Assurance of Consequence, and then your combat, whether you like it or not.
Aww.
So, do any of you guys have a favorite rogue spec? Is there one that you prefer to the others, or do you just like playing whatever is best for that encounter?
I play whatever gives me the most damage for that particular fight. I like them all equally.
Okay.
I really like Sub. I think Sub's a really fun spec, even though it hasn't been very good, although it's decent this tier, other than the fact its AoE is abysmal. And I really don't like combat at all. It's too spammy, too carpal tunnel syndrome inducing, so I'd rather avoid that. So right now I play mostly Sub and Assassination.
I see.
That sounds like a fair point. So now, to keep going with this breakdown between the three classes, we had a question that came in. And I'll bring that up right now. It's going to be question 3, actually, in our notes. But it came from Guidance on EU Storm Scale. And they ask, I see a lot of combat rogues go for a full haste build, but many top rogues remain with agility. Is this a big difference between the two, or is it simply just to make it easier to swap between or around specializations? We'll go with Fiery first.
Yeah, that's just for swapping specs. That's what I do.
Okay.
At high gear levels, Assassination likes haste, Subtlety likes haste, Combat likes haste a lot. So you sort of go with Agi haste, and you can. I think it's within about 1.5% of optimal for all 3 specs with careful reforging. So I think that's a pretty good compromise to make. So that's what I do.
Yeah, it's really okay. So it's just pretty simple, but. Like, say, Dalton, I'll throw the other side of that question at you. With each spec, is there a better way to gem and reforge that is more optimal? So you have to keep changing it if you go back and forth.
I would hurt that a lot in the middle of raid between the last 3 bosses.
Yes, he would.
I would go a mastery build for my assassination set. A lot of rogues, their simulation craft would say crit was the superior stat. Crit haste mastery. I opted to go mastery haste crit. I have pretty good numbers with that setup, and I like the flow of it a lot better. I don't like running low haste, but in terms of combat and sub, it's so close to each other. The forge and gemming, I just went myself Agi haste to keep it simple.
Okay.
And then with, like I said, with assassination, I really don't play anymore. I really wish I could, but for simplicity and gold's sake, I just went combat sub.
Okay. So does
that was
mean...
this before or after we were done?
Oh.
This...
there's a big difference between how you're going to gear. And I know you used to hearth out like between every single fight when we were on progression. But now that we're done, I feel like it's probably that you would be doing something that's a little bit more, multitask friendly.
After we killed Garrosh, I stopped hearthing.
Yeah. Okay.
But then that makes it sound like, so you can kind of go just the Agi haste for sub and combat, but then assassination is really the only spec that you really kind of care about mastery? Is that kind of the simple way to put it?
I disagree with that. I think haste at high gear levels is flat out better. And both our tools both our theory crafting tools show that. It's partially related to the legendary cloak and metagem, which love haste and all that. But I think at high gear levels, it's just flat out better. And there's some issues with the ShadowCraft model at high haste levels, which are minor issues. But overall, haste is a better thing for assassination at 570, 565 high level, I think.
Oh wow, okay. So haste then. All right.
I can't disagree with it. It's but I like what I like, so.
That's fair enough. I mean, if it's like what Fiery said, it's not a huge differentiation between, like, if you go agility or agility haste or mastery, you're not going to see, like, a huge swing, are you? Like, it's not going to be a gigantic gap, so...
The difference is going to be, like, a 95th percentile, maybe you'll get a 96th or a 94th, it's...
Okay.
The values are so close to each other, it's no difference.
That sounds pretty good, then. Okay.
Yep, I'm familiar with that. I know in the rec community there was some disagreement for some time about whether it was better to stack haste forever or to stack haste to 40%, or whether on an AE fight mastery was actually superior. So there you saw different people doing different things who were playing the same class and basing what they were doing on the same tools. So sometimes there's some differences of opinion.
Fair enough. I'll grab the next topic here. I just screwed up something in the notes, but I wanted to go over some more broad topics here. So we'll talk about 6.0 a little bit. Now, again, just to make everyone in the chat room, though, we don't like talking about, like, the stuff that's not confirmed yet, like talents and whatever like that. That will come in beta episodes when we actually have more information that is more concrete. Right now, who knows, maybe it doesn't even exist when we actually get into beta. So there's no point in talking about it right now, because it might not actually happen. So, the first thing I want to think about, though, is there anything that rogues really need going into 6.0 that you guys think that they would benefit from? Are there any talent, glyph, or spell changes that really would benefit you guys that are right now, like, you barely even use them, or they have no potentiality? So, what do you think, Dalton?
I don't want to run into the topic of ability bullet with this, but Tricks of the Trade's got to go.
Yeah, yep.
It needs to go. Let go.
But how else would you kill me on a boss pull? I mean, let's be honest.
Oh wow.
I've killed a lot of people with Tricks of the Trade. That's its only benefit at this point, that they're not a tank. With the tank threat the way it is, the design of Tricks is outdated. It's archaic. There's no point for it anymore.
It's just, it literally uses as a rotating damage buff to your like best damage, or if you have two rogues, they just back and forth it, and they put it in a macro and they forget about it.
Yeah. Or we bid to see who gets their tricks.
Oh, you bid to see?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
For the highest bidder. I mean, I don't know if Dalton's ever done that, but I know when you've been gone, Tarima's put it up for auction.
Wow.
I keep it to /roll. I don't charge people.
You don't charge people?
I see how
I'm not evil like Tarima.
Okay. I see how that goes.
Now, what about you, Fiery? What do you think? What changes would you like to see?
I agree on Tricks. Tricks is an ability that shouldn't have gone into MOP. Blizzard removed DI and FM, and Tricks should have gone the same way. There's sort of a meta level. I think the big thing is spec differentiation. You need something to make combat different from subtlety. They're way too similar right now. Sub needs better AoE toolkits, and assassination needs to be harder than tying your shoes in the morning.
Oh, that's all you have to do? That's
pretty much. Assassinations is probably one of the easiest specs in the game. It's pretty depressing, actually.
We had the question come about how cruise control that assassination is right now, because everything like refreshes and it's all like passive, and you just kind of auto attack, and then you like.
I think you could probably just sort of go mutant venom, mutant venom, mutant venom, mutant venom, mute rupture, mutant venom, and that's pretty much the encounter.
Top 5 parts.
Top 5 parts. Yeah, worth. Hashtag worth. Okay, fair enough. That just seems. Maybe that's probably an issue. I wonder, going back to the whole you are the only pure melee class with all 3 specs are all about damage. That I wonder if there's just a hard line, or it's just a really weird area to like really make them all 3 different. But they've done that with like warlocks and hunters right now.
Mages.
And mages, yeah. So maybe. I don't know. We'll see about that in Warlords. Because I know you guys went through a lot of changes in MOP going in from Cataclysm to this. But then I think a lot of it just kind of got smooshed back together by the end. Like you said, at least the combat and subtlety are like the same things. One uses one hands, one uses daggers, right? Or no, I mean, you can use one hands as subtlety, right, too? You don't have to use
can't you use maces?
Maces? Yeah.
You can use a mace in your offhand. Your main hand Hemo is Blizzard nerfed Hemo pretty hard coming into MOP, so now Hemo is your primary CP builder, isn't viable as subtlety anymore.
Oh, huh, interesting.
It was with legendary daggers though, or actually even without legendary daggers. But Hemo, Dalton remembers the spec. The Hemo spam spec for Ultraxian was a silly spec back in the Indicata.
Yep.
A silly spec for a silly fight. Seems like it works out.
Interesting. That's really, really weird. So we'll see about that. Is there anything else? So is any gameplay mechanical suggestions or something like that? Like on like a baseline level that you want to see? I mean, I guess just the combat subtlety argument you guys had, and just Tricks of the Trade needs to just get kicked in the butt. So
I don't like Vanish as a DPS CD. Like, with the T1 talents, our stealth talents have made Vanish into damage CD for combat and assassination. I don't think that really fits. Like, for subtlety, it makes sense, because subtlety has openers, but for combat and assassination, I feel like it feels like button bloat, and I also don't like not having Vanish for when I actually want it for utility, like on Paragons, or to live at the end of a fight and save a repair bill.
Oh, I see. So it does double. It does double duty as a DPS CD and as a utility CD.
A very minor damage CD, but I assume if Dalton is anything like me, but you're still hitting it on cooldown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
that's so. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. That kind of diminishes its entire value of being that, unless you're like PvPing or something like that, that you can really use it for what it's supposed to be for. Then now you're using it as a damage cooldown because of the energy regeneration or energy reduction on your abilities or whatever when you're in stealth. So, I guess that brings us around to another question that came in. That's a good segue. So we'll go with this one. This came in from Viper on the Burning Legion US. This is question 2. I put a little bit on the actual card. I'll read the rest of it out, though. But it's, what do you think about the role of stealth in raids? So this is Viper from Burning Blade. And the rest of it is, it's clearly a defining aspect of the class and all other aspects of the game. But in the raid combat, its relevance is reduced to using Vanish solely for shadow focus, or Ambush for maintaining Find Weakness. Even Shadow Dance is simply a chance to spam Ambush for them to do anything stealth related. Would you like to see stealth as a relative class mechanic in raids? Is there anything you could do or suggest that would make it not a gimmick or a massive DPS loss? I'll go with Dalton first. What do you guys think of stealth?
I'm not sure what else you could do to change it. The way it is with subtlety right now, you spend a good majority of the fight in a Shadow Dance stand or you're vanishing with subterfuge. It's a tier 15 talent that you take for sub, and like Fiery said a little bit ago with assassination in combat, you fire and forget it, you vanish, ambush, preparation, vanish, ambush, and you do it again in 2 more minutes. But with sub, you're actually, even though the question says, even though Shadow Dance just gives you a chance to spam ambush over and over and over, I don't know what else you could do.
Yeah. What about you, Fire? What do you think?
I agree with Dalton that I think the question sort of understates how nice Shadow Dance is for subtlety. Like, yes, it is just spamming ambush over and over again, but the subtlety spec building around sort of weaving your cooldowns together to maximize your Find Weakness uptime is a really nice spec design. Has some problems, but I think it's a really nice spec design overall. In terms of broader, how do you make stealth work as a spec 20, I'm not really sure you can. I think moving Vanish is not a DPS CD for combat and assassination will help, so you can do things like Vanish Cheap Shot, Vanish Garrot, which we don't do right now. But in general, I'm not sure what you really can do. I know Guild Wars 2 had a neat implementation of stealth with where you could sort of go into stealth during combat, but it wasn't really that much better than something like a Shadow Dance is now.
Because you gotta keep yourself in combat so you're not like avoiding mechanics or not being targeted for spells, but at the same time it is sort of a really big part of being a rogue. But from a raiding perspective, you don't really use it in raids, so that's a hard question, I'm sure. We shall see. That also brings me into asking you, is there anything that outside of tricks that rogues can also live without? Or do you think you can just cut off, just never come back, you don't need it anymore?
Don't worry about going into the whole button bloat thing, because I mean that's one of the topics that they're dealing with for warlords. So I have got no shame in suggesting things that should be removed from my class, and neither should you.
Yep.
Shroud of Concealment, number 1. Go away.
Yes.
Shoot.
Shadow Walk.
Awful.
Yeah. Shadow Walk, you said?
Shadow Walk's another one. It was it was added in MoP. It's better stealth for 6 seconds. The Blizzard killed the stealth arms race back in Wrath, and it's really pretty silly now. It's a button that you hit it when you hear the sound effect of another rogue in stealth. It's a useless button. But those two are obvious. But beyond that, I don't know.
That's actually
Tempest.
Oh,
yeah, we've got some suggestions in chat here. Chat suggests Crimson Tempest.
Yeah.
I want to like
Tempest.
Crimson.
I want to like it too. I do.
You want to like it, but you don't?
It's a really bad ability. It's for combat, it's not worth using on less than I think 8 targets. For subtlety, it's worth using, but subtlety's AOE that I've mentioned before is really, really, really bad. It doesn't hit hard enough. It doesn't, and damage is heavily backloaded. It's It's like 20% of his damage up front, 80% of his damage over 10 seconds, so it's really bad for burst AoE, which tends to be where you want, and burst tends to be what you want for those big AoEs, so Crimson Tempest, Blizzard should, if you front load damage a little more, increase the damage a little more, it'd be nice.
So what does it do right now? Just so, I don't know, what does Crimson Tempest actually do? What is it? It's like a more powerful fan, right, or something? Or
it's a finisher.
Yeah.
Okay.
It puts an AoE bleed finisher on all the targets. As sub, it gives you Sanguinary Veins, which increases your damage output to those targets with the bleed. And the only time I've used it this entire expansion is in the Jade Temple Garrosh room, where, because I'm subtlety for that fight instead of assassination or combat, I pool combo points going into the dream, and I'll Crimson Tempest my pack of 3, and that way I don't have to waste hemo putting a SV on other targets.
Okay.
When I switch to them. That's the only time all expansion.
Wow. All expansion.
All expansion.
That's a rough thing to say.
Sounds like a really not useful ability then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else mentioned in chat Expose Armor, which I agree with to a certain extent. I feel like Expose Armor is a really outdated mechanic. Or more actually, the Rogue and Warrior implementations of it, with you have to stack it up, is really outdated versus like the Druid auto-apply 3 stacks. I would like something like that for Rogues.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, because the old mechanic was that you have to keep sundering your armor or doing whatever, and Expose used to be just combo point based, and you just snap it up there, right, and it would be the full stack.
Yeah.
But now it's like you got to keep smacking it 3 times or whatever it is to get it up, and it doesn't seem. Yeah, that might be like a waste, because it doesn't really do comparable damage when you're doing it, does it?
It does no damage.
Oh, it does no damage. Well,
and it seems really unfair if one class can apply it much more efficiently than another class can. I mean, I understand that there needs to be some kind of overlap where if you don't have certain classes, well, maybe there won't need to be that overlap in Warlords, but there does need to be some overlap in different debuffs being applied. But it really doesn't seem right that Druids can apply it so much easier than a Rogue or a Warrior can.
Yeah. That seems like an issue there too. So there's a couple of things. Anything else before we move on?
Yeah. Well, let's go into the opposite topic, which is, is there anything that Rogues can't? Oh no, never mind. I'm misreading this question here.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll just say because that is what they need or what they don't need kind of thing. So let's talk about what they have right now. And I titled this, which is Rogue Utility, which is Anna's most favoriteest word ever.
Yeah. Let's talk about Smoke Bomb.
Power word Smoke Bomb.
Power word
Smoke Bomb.
So
Rogues joining healer chat, definitely a moment that I love.
Oh, really? They're in your healer chat?
Well, we do all of our raid cooldowns in healer chat instead of doing them in raid chat because we like to keep raid chat clean. So all the cooldown announces are in healer chat. So yes, the day that the Rogues had to join healer chat was definitely a day where I was like, there are too many raid CDs on too many classes. Yeah.
That's true. That is true. So we'll open with Smoke Bomb first. So I put how incredibly powerful or weak is his ability. I guess you can only use it weak if it's not hitting the whole raid, but it's pretty ridiculous. So I put for the first thing, so what encounters could you give examples of that it just literally broke in that regard? I'll go with Fiery first.
Garajal and Amber Shaper. Because that was before they made it like a real raid city there. It was still just doing the LOS thing. And on Garajal, it prevented the the downstairs ads from hitting you. So during the burn phase, you just rotated smoke bombs and, hey, look, the raid damage is none. And then Amber Shaper, same basic deal. It doesn't toss the things in, and again, drops raid damage.
Yep.
That was silly.
And then Dalton, go real quick. What does Smoke Bomb actually do? So everyone knows.
Well, real quick, it actually broke Lei Shin for a small amount of time.
Yes.
If you smoked bomb on top of Lei Shin, he wouldn't shoot the bouncing bolts.
What?
Because he couldn't target anybody. Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
We never used it, but I did hear about it.
Also, Council in TOT had the, if you used it on the Frostbite guy, he wouldn't toss out a Frostbite for the same reason. Blizzard fixed most of those pretty quick, though.
What in the heck?
They left the Troll one in, but they took the Lei Shin one out, probably because he is actually an in-boss.
Yeah.
So it's a little different playing ground there.
Okay.
But Smoke Bomb, 20% damage reduction. Provides a line of sight. Like that's why it worked on Garajal so well. Nothing can target you inside the Smoke Bomb. So you stack your rogues, 3-4 rogues. You now have 28 seconds of no damage on the raid. You know, it's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, powerful.
Are there any other encounters that Smoke Bomb broke like that?
Someone in chat mentioned Ragnaros fire magma traps, and I remember that being true, like being able to use it for that. So you'd stack up in melee, drop the bomb right as a magma trap would go out, and you just skip the first magma trap. That was kind of nice.
He wouldn't cast it?
He would try to cast it, and he didn't have line of sight on anyone, so he wouldn't cast it.
Spazzo, what are you doing? Just throwing all these other broken mechanics. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's sort of the point of the ability. But because of the stackability of it, and it really seems like you can... is Blizzard okay with you avoiding their mechanics like that?
I'm pretty sure they're not, considering they've fixed almost every example.
Yeah.
Are there any examples we've thrown out that they haven't fixed?
The Garjon and Ambershade ones didn't get fixed. Those are still in.
Still in?
I guess so.
Yep.
They might care more about them on, like, end-tier bosses, though. That's why the Leishen one got fixed, but...
Yeah, Leishen and Ragnaros would be big ones.
I'm actually not sure the Rag one got fixed. That was Phase 1 Rag, which didn't matter that much for anyone who's close to killing.
When did Rogues gain Smoke Bomb?
Beginning of Kata. It's our level 85 ability.
Ooh.
Okay.
The damage reduction's a new thing, though. That came out, I think, in 5.2.
5.2. Yeah,
5.2.
Chat room might confirm. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of, because it didn't used to be a raid CD, and it only became a raid CD fairly recently.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it always had the LOS thing.
Yeah, it went from a button that we never used to being the most important button that we do
and
use.
this brings up a Darnell point back from the Mike B little skits he did. Didn't Smoke Bomb used to last like forever, and now it only lasts like a fraction of that time? Didn't it used to last like 10 seconds or more? Now it's like what, 4?
At the very beginning of Kata, it was 10 seconds. Then because of PvP reasons, it got nerfed down to 5. You could glyph it to 7, and it was on preparation in Kata, so you could put 14 seconds of Smoke Bomb down with prep if you were subtlety, I guess, during Kata.
Oh.
Now it's just 5, 7 with a glyph.
Okay. I see.
So, yeah, I guess I feel it lasted a long time, but he put up a side-by-side of where it used to last, and he made fun of the fact that it was like, and poof, oh, it's gone. So, okay.
Well, let's talk about some other stuff that rogues have besides Smoke Bomb. I know that you have Shroud of Concealment, which is pretty awesome in challenge modes.
Sort of.
Not really.
Not really. Wait, isn't that the one that makes like this big stealthy zone around you? Hey, that's really cool. We had a rogue in my challenge mode that used it. Why are you guys so like
better?
They're both shaking their heads.
Down on it?
Visibility potions are superior in every way.
Oh,
last longer.
You're bursting my bubble.
Wow.
The other problem with the Shroud of Concealment is the level of stealth you get in Shroud. For everyone else who's not a rogue in Shroud, they get really weak stealth. So actually getting around things with it is very hard without people like just getting nailed. I remember we tried to use it in Scarlet. In one of the Scarlet Halls, the Scarlet Halls when we're at the Invispot section, and we just found that it was impossible to use correctly through there, so we just went and all got Invispots, and it was much better.
And chat brings up, but too bad rogues are bad in challenge modes. Aww. But yeah, that's why I only used it. We had a rogue when we did, I think it was Scarlet Halls as well, and we did it only one, or Monastery, that one first room you stealth pot through. But that seems like such a small amount of that ability to be used. It's a fun effect to like give stealth to your friends, but if we've only used it in one situation or two, but that's all it. Was that a success?
No.
No.
See, I don't know.
Trash.
I guess maybe I have a different opinion on it because I've done challenge modes with a really wide variety of groups. Since I do them every Sunday, just for fun. And so the groups that I've had a rogue, instead of saying like, oh, this ability's subpar with comparison to pots, I've had the feeling of, oh, this is really cool. This is a different tool that we have access to. So maybe it's just not as cool as I thought it was. Would you want it to be better? I mean, is there a way that it could be better, or is it just one of those really disappointing abilities that's just kind of lame?
I think they had some PvP dreams with this, that people would get in groups of 30 and the rogue would shroud, and there would just be an assault on, a flag node or something, but that doesn't happen. You're not going to coordinate 30 people in a random battleground. So I don't know what they were doing with that. That is such a disappointment. I really wanted that ability to be something cool, but nothing.
What do you suggest then?
So you don't think it could be changed to be more cool, or just take it out?
Remove it. That's your suggestion.
There's a theme here. There's a theme here of every ability that we've gotten in the past 4 years that we use it once in expansion, except Shadow Blades
and Tricks. So, Tricks is it's longer past.
It's been about.
We should remove that too.
6 years, So.
Okay. You guys are so down.
Same as were in 2006.
Ah, goodness. Well, then that brings us to the next version, I think, of all of these different abilities, which opens with a question, which we'll go with this first. This came from Raros on U.S. Shadow Council. Rogue mitigation has been pretty strong, and we're often called out to soak various mechanics. How do you feel about being the niche role of the soaker? Is the class's ability to take very little damage and often overlooked ability? I don't think it's overlooked since it's OP as hell.
It's certainly not overlooked in our level of raids. Maybe it's overlooked in more casual raids who aren't used to having to deal with sort of lots of auto-kill mechanics, but it is not overlooked when you get up to the level of doing later hard modes.
So what we're talking about here, of course, is...
Cloak of GG.
Cloak of GG, otherwise known as Cloak of Shadows. This is a 1-minute cooldown, right?
Yeah, 40 seconds with Assurance of Consequence, which most raiding rogues are running now.
Of course now, yeah. And it makes you basically immune to life.
Yeah. Unkillable.
Unkillable most of the time.
Less recently. Like, if you look at Paragon, like, a lot of stuff in Siege will ignore it. Like, on Paragons, Fire Lines ignores it. Amber on the Ground ignores it. There are a lot of things that ignore it, and it's actually quite frustrating.
It was actually patched in that rogues can now, you can vanish the True Shot thing.
That's really silly.
But So, yeah, there's some, there are abilities that actually say it voids immunity, so people can't bubble it, you can't cloak it. But
in fact, I'm pretty sure that flag avoids immunities was broken for a very long time. It was when we were working on Shaw of Fear that they fixed it, because there's some ability on Shaw that you're not supposed to be able to immunity, that you were suddenly able to you were suddenly not able to immunity after a while, and ever since then they've made more mechanics that ignore immunity effects.
Was it the debuff,
dread
the ball
spray?
drop?
Yeah, no, it wasn't dread spray. It was the debuff in phase 4. The very last one.
Oh, the huddle.
Yes.
Huddle and Terror.
Ah, yes. You were able to immunity that for a long time, and then after they fixed it, it was really late. It was maybe after 5.2 was released. They fixed it so that you could no longer bop that off of people.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah,
does Cloak of Shadows count as an immunity effect, or does it count as a damage reduction?
It's a immunity for the first half second or something, and then it's after that's 100% miss chance.
Okay.
It used to be a 90% damage reduction cooldown, but then they went the whole way and just gave us 100%. I'm not sure why, but there was always that element of danger with Cloak of Shadows that you could pop it and you could die, which it sucked when that happened. But they got rid of that.
Now, how long does it last, Cloak of Shadows?
6 seconds.
6 seconds.
Sweet.
Do you maintain 100% DPS while it's up?
Yep.
So basically, it's bubble but better.
Bubble but better.
Yes,
and on a much shorter cooldown.
On a much shorter cooldown.
Not
that I'm jealous.
Cloak's
not that I'm raging.
Powerful.
Yeah.
With Assurance of Consequence, it being a 40-second cooldown, there's no reason for a rogue ever to not be the 25th person killed in a raid. There's just no reason for it.
Yeah.
It's pure God mode.
It basically is. So, you both said it's too powerful, you think? Do you think it just needs a longer cooldown? Would that ruin the ability? Do you think it needs to not be, immune to everything that's around you for 6 seconds? I thought it was only 2 or 3, but holy crap. So, I mean, oh, there she goes. But do you think it needs to be just reduced in cooldown? What do you think?
I think it should probably go back up to 2 minutes like it used to be. Because up until 5.2, it was a 2-minute cooldown. They brought it down to 1 for PvP reasons. I like it at 1 minute. It's really, really powerful, but it's probably too powerful. And then the other problem is just how it may interact with the CD reduction stat next in Warlords. Because if the CD reduction reduces the CD of Cloak, you can get into some weird situations like all rogues should have X amount of CD reduction for this encounter because you need it to get 40-second Cloak, which is like Cloak for every whirling on Garrosh, for example.
Sure, okay. Yeah, I don't know. We're waiting for Anna to reconnect real quick here. And what do you think then, Dalton? Just make it longer cooldown, or what do you think about Cloak?
He took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay.
I think it should go back to a 2-minute cooldown. The reduction trinket really messed with a lot of things with rogues. Cloak of Shadows being 40 seconds is absurd. You can avoid every whirling on Garrosh. You can negate every Iron Star explosion in phase 1. And that's just Garrosh. That's not counting all the other fights in in the tier actually that you can negate. Every single explosion on a Mercius you can negate. Like, every single fight, there's something that rogues just laugh at. And on top of feint and on top of cheat death, there's no reason for Cloak to be a minute cooldown for PvE purposes.
Okay, so just basically making the... we're going to go to the title slate real quick here, guys, while Anna reconnects, but the cooldown really seems to be the issue here. Because not only does it last 6 seconds, and it only has a 40-second cooldown, so you have a 34-second turnaround on this immunity to everything ability.
Just magic.
Oh, it's just magic.
Physical damage will still go through, but there's not a lot of that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of ability to do physical burst in that regard. Yeah, you're right. So, okay. Let's move on really quick. Oh, what's up?
You can glyph it for 40% physical reduction, too. So you can already make it even more powerful.
Yeah.
Is that a major glyph, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. Use it on shamans a lot. It's nice for iron prisons on shamans if you're not running elusiveness.
Yep.
Okay. Alrighty. So I wanted to go with the next one then. And this would be a quicker one because you really don't get to use your stuns, blind, saps, and gouges in raids. So real quick, how many times have you used any of your actual CC abilities in high-end raiding?
You want to take this one first? Or?
Sure.
I can't show you both because the regions are messed up. But yeah, I just see. But yeah, how do you do this? What do you?
Stun on Subutai was nice. On Spirit Kings.
Okay.
The add on Raden. Nazgrim add. And I think that's about all I got.
You've covered it.
And we're done. And we're back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yay.
I would blind the whirlwinding ad on Nazgrim because melee don't like to touch that ad, but with blind you can get in and do your business on them. So that's probably the only time I used blind this entire expansion. Except I take that back. I used it on Lei Shi on the
the ads that would global your healers. Sure,
yes.
Of course. That's a good point.
So I was in the stun rotation for that.
Okay.
The big problem with stuns, I think, is that Blizzard has gone to AoE stuns being the primary thing.
Yep.
Ball lightning, all these mechanics, AoE stun, AoE stun, AoE stun, but single target stun you don't need a lot of. And then when you do, like a paladin with a Fist of Justice, 30-second cooldown, 20-yard range, no combo point cost is generally just strictly better than a rogue who has to either redirect or MFD over 5 combo points, run over to the mob and stun it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems like the thing. I mean, and then you've got the leg sweep from monks now, and the shockwave, or even like you've got to have a prot tank sometimes too, and yeah, it just seems like using, especially it's a DPS loss for the rogue, unless you take the talent that gives you at least a little bit more damage when they're stunned, but that's still, it's so small. Yeah, it's very PvE.
That's really powerful.
Yeah,
right in the week's really 10% AoE, 10% raid damage reduction is really powerful, but the rogue has to do the stun, which is unpleasant.
Yep. So, I mean, obviously we know about how you guys are so strong because of your CC and PvP, but again, PvE show, so hey, not everything's going to be falling into both buckets. Mm-hmm. And then, I think that's enough about that. The other thing you talked about in the pre-show was disarms. Like, you missed like, the whelp room, or, like, the traps on...
Oh, I thought you were talking about disarming mobs. You mean disarming traps.
Traps, yeah, or disarming mobs, yeah.
Well, there are definitely times when disarming mobs can be really useful. I mean, speaking as a tank, you can disarm. Can't you disarm one of the shaman on Dark Shaman?
The one time I used dismantle this expansion.
Yes.
Oh,
you can disarm the one on the hill, and he's a dual wielding boss, so it actually lowers the tank damage by a fair margin.
Wait, which one is that? I don't think I've ever been on that boss. So
Harem.
Yeah, I don't think I've never actually attacked him.
Yeah.
So.
If you're doing Dark Shaman, you can disarm the guy that you tank up on the hill, the Earthbinder guy.
Yeah,
and he's a dual.
The jets.
Yeah, the one that shoots the jets, and he's a dual wield boss, so it actually lowers the tank damage. Not that anybody ever had trouble with that fight, unless you're tanking them together.
You can dismantle the ads on top of the towers on Galacrast too.
Ooh, I didn't know that one.
We started doing that when we were progressing that fight.
Oh, you can disarm the Thok Jailer.
Thok Jailer. I was going to say Thok Jailer.
Thok Jailer. Yeah, that's a good one.
Our tank told me to stop doing that though because he wanted vengeance.
Although that's a pretty.
That's a good point, I guess.
Pretty consistent with what our tank always wants. So.
Or our monk saying, "Hey, let me do it so I can get my damage buff."
Oh yeah.
Why did they get that? I want that. I want that.
I don't know.
That's fair enough. Yeah, and the disarming as well, not only mobs, but then, like, do you guys miss the suppressor room in Blackwing Lair, or you had a little bit of that?
Does anyone miss the suppressor room in Blackwing Lair? I'm doing that on my level 60 right now, and let me tell you, that room is so irritating. I do not miss that room.
You do not miss that room?
But I'm sorry, the rogues, do you guys miss having utility like that? Because I don't know if the rest of the raid does.
I miss it more. That is what made me feel like a rogue. The Ice Crown trash, when you disarm the traps before Maragar and the traps before Putricide. Traps after the traps after Saurfang too. And Suppression Room is another example. Fiery said last night in our little chat, reminding about Shanox, the traps you could dismantle on that fight. I really wish with Mythic, since they're assuming that you're going to have one of every class in the raid, that they'll bring something like that back. Something that may require you to vanish in combat, to pickpocket something, maybe to disarm like a pylon, like on Lady Vosh style. Like I would love that so much, to have a job like that. That'd be so fun to me personally.
I absolutely hate that idea.
No,
What's wrong with that two of you guys?
That's terrible.
I love it.
Shanox I liked because they made the mechanic so you could. It was a nice perk for having a rogue in the raid. Wasn't required. Like being able to get rid of traps around your crystal prison trap you wanted to go with. That was a nice perk, but it wasn't required. I think that's a good model. Or ICC trash. Like it's nice to have a rogue who can go like find those traps. But if you don't, oh well, you add like a minute to your trash clearing time. I think that's a nice perk, but not necessarily something like integrally related to a raid encounter.
Yeah, I guess the issue with that, it would raise obviously the overall skill cap required if certain things like that has to happen. There's not a whole lot like else that I think is that mechanically deft, I suppose, to be that. Because if you don't have a good rogue doing it in your raid, then you know, heaven help you. It's the Terran Gorfine syndrome all over again. So
Pickpocket simulator.
Someone will make a flash applet online and direct everyone to it on the general boards. No, yeah, but I mean, I don't know what doesn't have. I always harken back to again. No drink. No boy.
I'm empty, babe. How can you do this to me?
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm only drinking water, but I think my only suggestion, I think, when Celestalon asked what we would like to see added to World of Warcraft, I said SWTOR puzzle bosses or something similar that are sort of your different take on encounters. Playing Minesweeper with your raid, super fun. All right? That is really, really cool. I just thought those were really interesting encounters, and Blizzard, outside of, like, chess, doesn't have that.
Are you talking about the one that you had people up top switching the panels around to...
Yeah, I did that.
To lead your raid through the minefield. Yep.
Well, you know what really happened with that? It wasn't exciting for the whole raid. What happened with that is that you had one guy who knew how to do it, who would guide the whole raid into doing it, and it didn't make a single bit of difference to anyone else. That's the implementation of a puzzle boss.
To some degree. I mean, there's the pylon boss in the first raid where you both had to solve the puzzle and deal with the ads and then make sure you solved it properly. And it took 3 people to solve it on Nightmare. So, I mean, because the debuff, or 3 or 4 people or something like that. So, I mean, it is interesting. You can't click the wrong way, you run out of time, you enrage, and you die. So, I just think interesting sides of that. I mean, the council fight where it's 16 1v1s is cool. I thought, anyway. So, yeah, it's interesting like that. I don't know about the vanish, pickpocket, disarm in combat.
I love it.
Fight. You think?
I love it.
I think Dalton needs a different game for that sort of.
See, what you should really be able to do is pickpocket the boss and then turn into the boss. Now that would be awesome.
But okay.
I wonder if the glyph works on Hagara. I've never tried.
That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Oh, go for it. After the show today, go check it out.
I want to.
So real quick, I wanted to bring up, before we go to a commercial break, I wanted to talk a little bit about what Fiery actually does and the group of people that are involved in making ShadowCraft, which I will bring up here on the screen, and then we will dump it right into the guild chat. Wow, the chat for the show. ShadowCraft, which I will then copy and paste over here. With the delay, it'll sound weird, but this is a model for helping rogues. Now, Fiery, what is a model versus a simulation?
The big difference between a model and a simulation is a model attempts to come up with a way to. It's a closed form way to it's a closed form equation. So a simulation, if you simulate coin flips, you'd actually do out a bunch of coin flips. Say, okay, how many heads do I get? How many tails do I get? A model, you say 50% of the time you get heads. So flip 3 coins, you expect to get 1.5 heads. And so the nice thing about a model is the maximum amount of precision you can get from a model is done in a certain amount of time. So in a simulation, the longer you run it, the more precision you can get. In a model, if you run a model, you always get the same precision no matter what. And so if you're trying if you want to try rapidly iterate through a lot of different gear sets, it's much nicer than something like SimulationCraft, where you have to sim out each gear set, and yeah.
Okay. What's an example? Can I run like a live one right here?
Yeah, sure. You can put me in.
What server are you on again?
Shadow Moon. In the Horsemen, there's the shout-out Peweg.
Yeah. And then who else is involved in building on this, and what do you do with ShadowCraft?
The lead developer of ShadowCraft right now is Pathel. I don't think he plays right, and I don't think he's playing right now, but he's the lead dev along with Indiz. And I tinker around with ShadowCraft. Occasionally, I suggest a change or two, but and my big thing I try to do is try to explain to the community how ShadowCraft works, because it can be very much a black box.
Yeah, this looks incredibly nice. It's very clean. It's ridiculously advanced. All I use dropping in your armory link in SimCraft and then doing, going off of that this is really cool though. It actually gives you your DPS breakdown here. I'm looking at your advanced tab where you get, this is really cool. Dang. So you're at, it's supposed to say you're doing 365k DPS right now.
That number doesn't mean anything.
Oh, is that just like a...
There are 3 weaknesses of ShadowCraft.
Okay.
The first weakness is, and the weakness all models share, which is if we don't know about it, we can't model it. So a good example of that is right now, and Venom uptime in ShadowCraft is modeled in a really simplistic way that tends to slightly overvalue haste by a couple percent, and we don't have a better way to model it, so it's wrong slightly. Similarly, there's no haste capping logic for assassination, which can be an issue with high haste. So if we don't know about it, it's not there. The second issue is those DPS numbers don't really necessarily... They don't really correspond to what you will see in game. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but we can't guarantee that. And the other thing is you can't compare between specs, because each spec has its own separate DPS model.
That's what I was just looking at, yeah.
The assassination model is different from the combat model, different from the subtlety model. So if you try to compare them, the numbers, combat and subtlety will look much better. They are in practice a little better, but ShadowCraft can't tell you that. You need a tool like SimulationCraft, where everything uses the same backend to be able to compare specs effectively. And rotations, you can't compare rotations either, really.
That's pretty awesome, though. And that's all built in to begin with, though, right? So it knows... And that's why when you go to the advanced, and it shows you your DPS breakdowns, your auto-attack, eviscerate, backstab, ambush. That's
Those
obviously
are reasonably accurate.
Reasonably accurate, but that sort of shows you where you're getting all your damage from. Even so, your Fury of Zuen, which is the cloak. The Lightning Strike meta, which is the meta gem of your helm, the legendary meta gem. So... really, really cool. And then you can change, of course, your priorities right here to, Mastery Haste Crit or Mastery Crit Haste, and that's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So if you need to check that out, I linked it again. It'll be, of course, in the description box on YouTube, but that is ShadowCraft. I'm sure if you just Google it, you'll find it as well. And it's pretty amazing. That's pretty awesome. So how many people you said work on this to make this whole thing?
Right now, it's really just Pathel and Indiz are doing most of the work on it. And then the UI was done entirely by, I'm gonna butcher the name.
Oh no!
I'm not gonna try to butcher the name. The UI was done back at the beginning of Kata, and a lot of the basic model stuff was done by the great rogue theory crafter Aldriana before he quit.
Okay. That's awesome, though. And Dalton, do you actually use ShadowCraft as well?
Of course.
Of course?
Absolutely.
All right. Just getting a double endorsement here, making sure. So
yeah, whenever anyone asks me how should I do what at ShadowCraft, go.
Yeah, just not even think about it? This is an amazing tool, because if you couple this together, of course, with, if you're going to use SimulationCraft, that is pretty awesome. And you can kind of go back and forth with them, too, because, again, they both do different things.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome. Very, very nice. Well, I am going to leave chat room with that and talk a little bit about some extra stuff behind the scenes and other communities that you guys may or may not know about. And then if you don't, you should check them out. Again, the first one was ShadowCraft. That's what we talked about a little bit beforehand. So it's shadowcraft.mmo-mumble.com. And I'll post it in chat just again here, so everyone can bookmark that if you are a rogue. And to go off on a little bit of a tangent, not rogue-related, but equally as awesome in the theory crafting community if you are a protection paladin, sacredduty.net. This is where Thek hangs out pretty much exclusively all the time, right, Anna? Like, this is where he lives, I assume?
Yes,
Yeah,
Sacred Duty is his home.
It's pretty much
You
his
can
home.
expect everything from theory crafting to bunny theory crafting on the site.
Are there actually buns on here?
he has this thing where there are bunnies that come up to his back porch, and so he's pretty much figured out how much food to put out there and set up like a bunny cam which will snap pictures of the bunnies. Anyway, you need to follow him on Twitter and watch the website because it's really cool. He's a cool guy with funny stuff to say as well as protection paladin theory crafting.
Yeah, he's got all these different crazy weak aura strings, not only just for prop paladins, but he's got death knights, hunters, mages, monks, priests, rogues.
Yeah, he's a weak auras expert, I would say.
Yeah, he writes lots of weak auras code, so check that out if you do want some weak auras, not only for a prop paladin, but there's tons here. Look at all these things. I'm scrolling really fast, but you can go check them out. Again, it's sacredduty.net. And if you have ever missed an episode of Final Boss, we do have a ton of episodes. It's our 29th if you count the pilot, and that doesn't count all the after shows. You want to check us out on YouTube. The link is right down there. I just hit my mic. Right down below. It says YouTube. Go click that. And you can go watch any of the past episodes we have here. We just had Elvine on last week. Resto Druids before that. Leads and Tickle for Elemental Shamans. Prod Paladins with Trekkie and Sloot Bag. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. It goes, there's Nobble up here somewhere. Wait, there he is with Silver Latomi. You got Alex from Fat Boss TV. Affinity with Reese for a BlizzCon 2013 wrap-up. I mean, come on now. It just keeps going.
Yeah, we've had almost every class on and a number of really cool community members, so you should really catch up and watch all of them. At some point, we'll run out of classes, but we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I think we have 7 left, and again, for those of you that are new, we do reveal the class that's coming on next week at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. And if you do have questions that we cannot answer during the show itself, the after show, which we have to take a little bit of break, we come back after the main show proper, we answer questions from chat, or Twitter, or you can email again. All those links are right below. So, that's enough about bad jibber jab. Let us move on to what we like to call the meat and potatoes. Let's talk about how to poison the shadows and do it from behind. So let's get some theory crafting and math up here and dive into all your different talents. Now, you guys specifically wanted to point out Killing Spree.
Combat level 80 ability that seems to do more harm than good. I know that's pretty true in our raid because every time a rogue dies, and considering how unkillable you guys are, it's always very memorable when a rogue dies. It's 100% of the time, Killing Spree did this. Killing Spree put me in the wrong place. Killing Spree killed me. So, how potent is this ability and how dangerous is it to you?
Dalton first. Let's go for it.
Go with Dalton.
It's very powerful. It's something you want to use on cooldown, in situations that aren't going to kill yourself. Like on Gar, I keep going back to Garlon, but that fight was such a pain for a lot of people. Depending on how you position yourself with Killing Spree, you could teleport to the body, and that was a bad thing.
Didn't just kill you, kind of killed the whole raid.
Yeah, kill everybody. And if you tabbed wrong, or if you clicked wrong for a Shadow Step to get the Garlon too, that was game over too. But they've tried to fix a lot of things with Killing Spree that could potentially kill you on boss fights, like Magma, for example.
Falling into the lava?
Fall in the lava. But then when they went on Otraxian, they let you stay in front of him. With Killing Spree. But then I didn't play combat at the start of Siege, but I think that there used to be an issue with Immersius with Killing Spree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but now they fixed it when you teleport to the side. So I don't know how they keep forgetting that Killing Spree is going to put you in these situations where it's going to kill you. It's getting old. But
It's getting old, yeah.
And it's a DPS cooldown, so you can't exactly not use it. I mean,
it's a pretty big one too. It's like 3 or 4% of your damage.
Wow.
Yeah, I hit a dummy earlier with just Killing Spree to see how much I would do. And I did like 2.5 million damage in a 2.5 second.
Oh my goodness.
So it's a huge DPS burst.
That's a lot.
that must be pretty frustrating then to deal with.
Yeah.
Are there any fights this tier when you were progressing that you were like, all right, killing spree and I'm dead? Like in tier 16?
Like all of them?
I haven't, because I haven't played much combat this tier, but
okay.
the other rogues in my guild had a fun time on Paragons. The Death from Above from Windreaver, if you killing spree Windreaver and he does Death from Above, you'll follow him, and then you'll drop below him and die.
I did that 2 weeks ago. With mine, I killing spreed on Noroshin. Right, I didn't watch my timers, and right when he did that death beam, that's the Halion beam that circles the room, it ports you right to the dead center of him, and that kills you instantly.
Oh, no.
So that's one I can think of for this tier at least.
Now, do you have any way to recover from where killing spree puts you, or do you not have control over your character for a bit of time?
Is it like can you stop macro it, or
you can do that, and a lot of people suggest you do that. And then you can also glyph it. When the glyph is sometimes useful, sometimes it will also kill you. The glyph makes killing spree dump you back where you started from killing spree, which is great which can be good on something like it'll save you from the Death from Above example, but it can kill you if the boss has dropped something there in the 2.5 second or 3.5 seconds now that you've been doing something.
Chat brings up Latin brings up.
There used to be an old thread on MMO Champ dedicated to killing spree deaths, videos, and stories.
That's amazing. Yep. Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
yeah, Valks. Chat mentions the Valkyries on Lich King with the pro killing spree to save yourself. That was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Oh, it would save yourself, or
it would teleport you back up to the. It would teleport you to the target. So if Lich King was near the edge and you got dropped by a Valk, you could killing spree and you'd killing spree to Lich King,
and it would float you back with it,
nice.
And it would teleport you back to Lich King.
So we got one pro and like con so far. So that's there's one in the good column. Other than damage, we got 2. Okay. Oh man, that's crazy. So, what are correct uses of it versus incorrect uses of it right now? Any that come to mind that are really pivotal, like when and where to use it to make sure? I mean,
well, Dalton mentioned watching your timers. I imagine that's pretty vital to using killing spree correctly.
Okay.
I've seen. Oh, go ahead.
Oftentimes, your best bet's just cloak before you use killing spree, and that'll keep you safe. It sucks to have to burn one of your big defensive CDs for killing, so killing spree doesn't kill you. But cloak killing spree will keep you safe most of the time.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a pretty good hint.
That's a pretty good hint. So cloak and then killing spree. All right, Dalton.
Yeah, with the tier 16 4-piece, killing spree gives you 10% more damage per hit of killing spree.
Oh.
And I've seen discussion. I haven't seen the math on it, unfortunately, that you generally always want to use killing spree outside of adrenaline rush because of the energy gain. But with that bonus, is the damage bonus, does it outweigh being capped for energy for those 2-3 seconds? I'm not sure on that.
I know there's some discussion on EJ about that, especially with regards to Shadow Blades, but I don't actually know I haven't actually seen anyone sit down and write a SimCraft profile to look at that that's conclusive, so I don't know. But I've heard them talk about that, yeah.
I'm back and forth on it. Sometimes I use killing spree during my cooldowns, and sometimes I don't. It depends where the fight's at the time.
Okay.
Well, there are some people who are giving some better examples of not dying with killing spree. You can killing spree out of the Heart of Fear second boss to cheat with the tunnel.
Yeah.
You can negate the knockback on Juggernaut. Says Wintersteel. So I guess it's got its uses.
Back in Wrath, they called it Ghetto Shadow Step, because before you had like a gap closer, you could close a 10-yard gap faster with killing spree. That was kind of nice. Still is kind of nice.
Oh, okay. So definitely an ability to keep, though, but just be careful of implementations of bosses that hang off ledges or have one-hit kill moves, I suppose.
Yeah, let the other rogues figure out that they're going to be killed first.
That's okay.
Play conservatively before you figure out how to use it.
Okay. Just use your other rogue as a guinea pig. Right, of course. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't imagine how much special case code there is on that ability. Just how much stuff there is for
on
this boss, you can't do this, on this... It's got to have a ton of special case, which is terrifying.
That's weird. At least it's not like... The only thing I think you can do to make it fix is make it like Fist of Fury, but rogues hate Fist of Fury to some degree because of the rooting effect, and you just stand there. That can get you killed, too.
I think a lot of people hate Fist of Fury and the rooting effect, not just rogues.
Okay.
That is a problematic ability.
Yeah. Fair
well,
enough.
moving right along, let's talk about different stat weights and gearing priorities for the 3 different specs. And we talked a little bit about this, how haste is a nice happy medium between the way that the different specs gear. But are there vast differences in the way that you gear for the different specs, and that affect the way that you gear up throughout a raid?
Not really. For the most, or at this tier, not really. In previous tiers, yes. Like the biggest thing this tier is for combat you need a weapon, which is obviously different, and then you need the cooldown reduction trinket, assurance of consequence. Those are the two. That's the big gearing thing for combat, because that trinket's something on the order of a 10 to 15% DPS increase.
Yep, I know that feeling, and I know that getting that combat weapon can be a bit of a pain. Dalton and I were discussing this the other day.
Yeah, our monk got the first 2 heroic weapons, and then the next 2 heroic warforged weapons, and then our other monk got the next 2 heroic weapons, and I think he now has the next 2 heroic warforged weapons. So I am still warforgeless at the moment.
Warforgeless.
It's very sad.
Oh.
Very sad times in the Dalton household.
And we have an enhancement shaman app, so it's going to put somebody else in line in front of you. Aren't they the same weapons, right? That an enhancement shaman wants and
It's
a
the
combat
axes.
rogue
You can't
wants?
use swords,
Axes,
though.
yeah.
You can't use swords.
No, we cannot. Damn it.
Our Windwalker still hates me because for SiegeCrafter, because I went combat for SiegeCrafter. I got a Thunder or Warforged of the Juggernaut mace over him, and I used it for that one fight and never used it again. He's a little about that still.
Oh, that's terrible. So we have for pure DPS episodes, because you guys only have 3 pure DPS class specs. I wanted to go into all of your talents. Usually we only pick out 1 or 2 that we talk about on the show, and like the really pivotal ones. Usually the DPS talents, of course, because they're different for each spec. But for you guys, we're gonna go through these. Got about 20 minutes or so, and so we'll start with 15, of course, and then we'll go through and then talk about points that are really important to each spec, where they shine for which ones or whatever, or if they're just really only one choice in each tier for no matter what spec you play. So I'll throw over the tier 15 stuff here. We'll start with Fiery. We're going to go with Night Stalker, Subterfuge, and Shadow Focus, all about that shadow stuff, because you play Assassination. So let's talk about those 3.
I don't like this tier at all. The biggest problem with this tier is that it makes Vanish a DPS CD, as I mentioned previously. But pretty much for combat and assassination, it's been Shadow Focus all tier or all expansion, and then Subtlety uses Subterfuge because there's a really interesting bugged interaction with the Glyph of Vanish, where if you still have the Vanish buff on you when Subterfuge fades, it gives you another Subterfuge when Vanish fades again. Or when the buff fades.
Wait, what?
So you can end up squeezing with proper pooling. You can squeeze 3 ambushes into a single Vanish with the glyph of Vanish and Subterfuge. That's what most people run as sub.
Oh.
It's a silly bug. Blizzard hasn't fixed it yet. We've reported it.
Interesting. Anything else on that, Dalton?
You nailed it.
On the
That's
stealth
really
stuff, yeah.
Subterfuge. It's fun. I mean, it's. Always like maximizing the ambushes during Vanish, but that's really it. Shadow Focus is a staple of combat and assassination, and Subterfuge is your subtlety, and Night Stalker is your solo content, so you run faster stealth. For PvP purposes, of course, too.
For PvP
maybe.
purposes. Okay, maybe, yeah. All right.
All right, well, let's talk about level 30 then. Just what is going on here? Say our show notes.
So yeah, no, I want to
ranged
preface
interrupt
that.
combo. Yeah, go ahead, Bay. Explain.
Looking through these talent trees for me, because I looked through them all and I studied the classes to make these show notes, and I'm looking through the rogue stuff, and I was like, all right, this tier is about stealth, and what the hell is this tier about? And that one, I think 2 of those do something differently, and then 1 does, what the heck does that do? Yeah. I'm so used to Enhancement Shaman, I'm like, oh, we got healing, we got some movement, we got some cooldowns, we got some DPS, we got some totems, we got some DPS. And that's it.
Yeah.
But the rogue talents, what the heck? Like,
you have
forgettable.
A ranged interrupt combo attack, a damage and healing debuff, and a personal ramp-up shield wall. So, what is going on with this tier? And what do you
level
pick?
30 tier, yeah.
It's the PvP tier.
Yeah?
That's really all there is to it.
Okay.
Deadly Throw, interrupting with combo points spent, may have been a thing. Like Maloriac, maybe, if you were running really low on interrupters, or maybe way back when General Vezix, that would maybe been a use for something like that. Nerve Strike, we got some heavy use out of that on Nazgrim and Rodin especially.
Okay.
Me and the other rogue, Anna was in the rotation too after our stuns went out.
Yep.
We would nerve strike and prey on the weak, the ads that you grip in, and that made a huge difference. Minus 50%.
Oh, that's right.
Yep, minus 50% damage done by that ad that was
But
pooping all
PSI
over
was the
raid.
first stun.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then combat readiness, I used, here we go again, another ability I used once this expansion.
Yep.
I used it on heroic paragons, the parasites that eat you. When those things hit you every so often, you build up your shield wall, and hopefully by the time that readiness is worn off, it's been eaten. So
Animus is another good one.
Animus too, that's right.
A lot
I
of
did
people
use
use
it
on Animus.
Because the
I
guys
did.
beat. Yep. Okay. So 2. We got 2 then.
2 fights. Yep.
Okay. Anything on that tier, Fiery? On tier 30?
No, your complaint is basically the complaint that Rogue's been making since beta. The tier 30 and tier 75, which we'll talk about later, are are dartboard tiers. You can pick any talent in that tier, and you won't know that you won't miss anything on a fight-to-fight basis for 99% of encounters.
You think that's an issue? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I guess
a
what
major
it
one.
seems to me is that you guys have the opposite problem of a hybrid, because the hybrids have this problem where it's very, very clear what the purpose of every talent is, and sometimes that limits us in our choices. I guess maybe in a class with 3 DPS specs, you guys you have a problem where a lot of the choices don't feel like they do very much for you.
It's really just broken down to PvE and PvP more than spec to spec to spec.
Yeah, that's what it
really how
is.
it's broken down with us.
Yeah. It's a little bit of fight variance there, like you talked about how you did nerf strike or combat readiness, so you have a little bit there, but most of the time it looks like you might kind of stick with the same talents the whole time, so...
And even for those couple examples of where like you'd use combat readiness or nerve strike, like you easily could just spec deadly throw and forget about it, and your raid probably
wouldn't
wouldn't
even
notice a
matter.
difference.
Oh gosh. So alright then, let's do tier 45. This is, I guess, damage mitigation and healing, and the way I wrote this down was that I put a question mark for cheat death on PvP, but then apparently cheat death is just like amazing. You have leeching poison, which I assume is just for soloing and farming, and elusiveness, which is maybe for PvE rating. So are these maybe? Are these just that cut and dry? What do you guys think of your 45, Fiery?
I like cheat death is the best choice on this tier. A lot of people really like elusiveness, and I think a lot of people overvalue it consistently, because the problem with elusiveness is that feint is already 50% AoE damage reduction. Going to 65% AoE damage reduction is nice, but it's not. If 50% doesn't save your life, then the chance that 65% is going to save your life is pretty low, and if it did, someone else probably died there, and it's a wipe anyway.
Okay.
Leeching poison is occasionally useful. Arguably, it was a good choice on Garlon and maybe on Malkarak because you've got shields, so the overhealing it creates turns into actual shields, but it's mostly a solo talent.
Okay. And what about you, Dalton?
Cheat death has saved me more times than I care to admit.
Okay.
Whenever it procs twice on one fight, it makes me feel real bad about myself. But it makes me glad. It makes me glad that I have it, though. So
Okay.
Dalton, always the pro rogue.
I did use elusiveness on one fight, particularly. I think it was more of a strategy thing. Our guild for the Troll Council on Heroic opted to give the debuff to the rogues, and we held it to like 40 or 50. And so we just kept feint up 100% of the time above like 30. And if we got hit by anything, we were dead no matter what anyway. But that opened up a lot of stress from everybody else not having to deal with that debuff at the time.
We did the same thing, but I just ran cheat death.
I just
ran cheat death.
I will say there were times that I forgot to spec back into elusiveness because I picked cheat death for obviously for Horadon and Genrock, but I didn't die. If I played well and I didn't screw up, I wouldn't be killed with cheat death. So
okay.
I did cheat death spec on Paragons a couple weeks ago, and Raid Leader wanted to kick me from the guild, so that was unpleasant.
What? Really?
Yeah. I was just hitting a lot of discs because I'm terrible. It was bad. It was bad all around.
Oh, so this is a problem between the monitor and the back of your chair, not actually the game.
Not actually in the talent tree.
Okay.
Some of the rest of us have to do... See, I say that some of the rest of us have to actually dodge discs, but I actually bubble the second set of discs every time anyway.
Oh.
I sit there on the boss and I hit bubble and I just sit there and keep DPSing him.
Yeah, I've double cooldown through discs to just DPS. Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah, I've done that.
It's happened. I don't want to run out and throw lightning bolts. Just gonna shield wall. Just both of them. 70%. It's fine.
Okay, well let's move along to the movement tier because everybody likes talents to let you get around. So which movement talent do you like the best? Or do you use all of them? I mean, I hear some silence there.
I really like Burst of Speed as a talent, but I typically use Shadow Step much more. It's more useful, and you don't typically need to move every 45 seconds like you do for Shadow Step, you don't typically need to move more often than every 24 seconds for Shadow Step. Burst of Speed's a nice talent. Now that it's 15 energy, it's reasonably cheap and it's easy to use, so that's nice.
Okay.
I was mostly exclusively Shadow Step for pretty much the entire expansion. Heroic Malkarok got me to switch to Burst of Speed for that fight because it clears the movement debuff from the oozes that get into melee.
I see.
And our rogues, me and Tarima, we were in charge of soaking the purple puddle that was closest to melee. So the other melee DPS could increase their uptime on the boss. Not have to worry about that. So we went Burst of Speed, and we were the ones that took care of that. We alternated each week, so one of us could try and parse, really, and one of us had a junk job for the week. But it's part of the utility. With Burst of Speed, you're immune pretty much to movement and parrying effects, and it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. For the record, melee do soak the ones that are within melee range of the boss, but they were getting the ones that were like slightly out of melee range of the boss, but close to the boss. That's what they were getting.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. FYI, I soak as many of those as I can with DP up. I'm just saying.
We ended up changing it because I don't know what happened. Maybe me and Trina let one off, but it ended up being the all melee should, like you said. Well,
I have a 40% damage reduction. It's just the slowing effect that makes it really annoying. If it's out of melee range of the boss, like on the other side of the boss, that's when I want you guys to clear the movement debuff and get over there. But...
Yeah, when we were short on range too, they had us soaking ones that were like really far away too.
Oh yeah, you were number 2 in some of the slices.
That's no fun.
That was awful.
So we talked about Shadow Step and Burst of Speed. What's the other one in the movement tier again?
It's
Cloak and Dagger is bad.
Cloak and Dagger, that's right, yes.
It had its one shining moment for one fight, and Blizzard nerfed it. So it's a great talent.
What does that talent do?
It makes your openers have a 30 or 40 yard range and teleports you to the target. You could use it to do every belt on ShadowCraft as a rogue the first couple of weeks. And Blizzard
that's when it was
that.
nerfed.
And then, but it's
that's
a pretty
right.
dead
They nerfed
talent, too.
some of the belt talents, and they didn't nerf other belt tricks.
All of them.
Yeah.
Transcendence.
Yeah, made lots of sense.
Disengage.
Yeah.
Yep. So fair enough. Now, level 75.
Passives.
I brought up Wowhead to make sure I could rabies again because there are just 3 passives. So Prey on the Weak, Paralytic Poison, and Dirty Tricks. Fiery, what are your thoughts on these 3? And when do you use them? And when do they actually matter?
This is another dartboard tier. I use Prey on the Weak always. That's it. Paralytic Poison, we thought about using like once on Hordon for an AoE stun, and Dirty Tricks. Dirty Tricks exists.
It exists.
It's a thing.
I've never used it.
Yeah.
Never used it. I mean, it reads, Dirty Tricks is your Gouge and Blind, no longer have energy cost, and no longer break from damage dealt by your poison and bleed effects. That seems pretty solo.
Yeah, very PvP.
It's not even used in PvP that much. Prey on the Weak and Paralytic are strictly better in PvP.
Those sound so much stronger, yeah. I mean, 10% damage when they're stunned, and then the Paralytic Poison is the stacks to stun. So, like, both of them, and the Paralytic Poison could be AoE'd with Fan, so yeah.
It's off the DR. It's not on the standard stun DR. It's on the uncontrolled stun DR.
Really?
With, like, the old school mace stun. Which makes it even better. And
wow,
so, like,
did not know that.
I was actually asked to stop using that on Garrosh Heroic Progression because I was...
Oh, because the ads?
Because it would screw up the stun rotation for our Warlock and Warrior. That they'd be looking at my ad, and the stun was interrupted, so they thought someone else got it. And the 2 ads around it would blow up, and it was concluded that it was Paralytic Poison was screwing that up.
Oh, okay.
So just went Prey on the Weak, and it's really 99% of the tier right there.
Okay. Calyx is loving this talent conversation right now.
Yeah.
He's already ready for a level 90 talent Z's here, so Anna, take it away.
No. Clearly, he thinks he's very enthusiastic about all of those talents.
Yes.
So level 90 talents, it says, it seems like a big bag of death, Jim.
It does.
Yeah. So, which level 90 talent, are there any that stand out that you've used pretty much all the time? I know my level 90 talent is pretty boring, so I'm just going to say that I hope your level 90 talent choice is more interesting than mine. It's not. Do you just use whatever provides the best DPS, and it's been the same for most of the expansion?
Go ahead, Dalton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead with that.
I use anticipation for 100% of my fights. There is argument for some fights where marked for death as combat can be beneficial. Horadon was an example of that.
Okay.
Marked for death didn't used to always be there. It used to be redirect, where it would be a 10-second cooldown.
Zero. First utility was 0.
It was a 0. Okay. They determined that was, I don't know, they made it into a glyph instead of being a talent. For some reason, that was more important than making anticipation baseline. But so we got marked for death, and very situational. Solo leveling content, absolutely. But anticipation, it makes assassination so much more fluid. Getting off back-to-back 5-point eviscerates is combat. I like that a lot too. But you can do that with marked for death anyway. So I just take anticipation because it's a lot easier. It's one less thing for me to pay attention to. If there's a lot of ads like on Horadon, that's why Marked for Death got a lot of love in the beginning of Throne of Thunder.
Fair enough.
But anticipation all the way.
Chat and Hearthfire brings up real quick to talk about that. We're not going to talk about Shuriken Toss at all, except for one small thing. But Shuriken Toss is the best talent, of course. You're spamming all the time. And then Kenty says you can use Shuriken Toss on Shinrock.
Raden Shuriken Toss.
Raden Shuriken Toss is the real word. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. When we had very few range DPS, the rogue spec Shuriken Toss and Raden, and we cried a little bit.
Yep. I know that I have the same feeling because you would do Symbiosis Rat Spam.
Yeah, the rat spam is a
I've been there with you. Yes. And it's that feeling of
Yep, it's just
such a dejected feeling. It's so it's an awful feeling.
I do like to mention, though, Shuriken Toss. It was at one point actually optimal DPS for assassination, and I believe subtlety as well, because it was such low energy cost. You could spam out. It was a 20. It used to be 20 energy, and you could spam finishers with it, and it was actually higher CP gen and only slightly lower damage per energy than your primary builders. So it was, for a while, it was used as a primary talent, but then that got nerfed.
Yeah, we can't have fun. We have to be pigeonholed into what they want us to play, pretty much.
I mean, because I'm looking at it, I was like, Shuriken Toss is very ninja-esque, sort of roguelike, and it works together with combo points and your deadly throw and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's cool, but it's just like, bleh. It's sad.
The other thing with anticipation's actually, like, I know we're sounding really dejected. Anticipation's a really fun talent. It's I've said a few times, it's the best thing that's happened to Rogue PvE since Wrath, and it is. It makes combo points a much more fluid system. It makes combo points a much more system you can actually interact with rather than build to 5, you're the finisher. Build to 5, you're the finisher. Now you can store combo points. There's a lot of power there. And the biggest problem going into Warlord, I'm going to jump into Warlord a little bit, is that anticipation is never something where it's going to be very hard to replace. Even if Marked for Death is better, and it's arguably better on some fights, because our combo generation is not fixed. Marked for Death anticipation just smooths that out really nicely. It's like the best example is like Shadowblades. If you pop Shadowblades Assassination, you're now generating 3 or 4 combo points every mutilate. So you'd be using finishers then at 3 combo points to avoid combo point wastage without anticipation, and that's really nice.
Okay.
Because Blizzard's forcing us into this sort of lots of combo points per ability or unknown amounts of combo points per ability. Anticipation has a lot of benefits there, even if it's not necessarily the best DPS talent, and arguably it isn't probably for a lot of people. Marked for Death's arguably better.
It does seem to be more of instead of just a cooldown or an ability that just guarantees you combo points and does something, it seems to be very much more of a mechanical ability. Like you said, it interacts with your combo points, it makes it more fun. So that's a good thing to hear. When I read it first time, I was like, so your combo points can give you combo points to get back combo points.
Yep.
Nice. So
I really wish it'd be baseline, but there could be some. I mean, we'd be the only class that has 10 combo points. That's a thing.
Yeah.
But
Don't
would they replace
Red
it
Paladins
with?
have 5? Red Paladins get
they have 5, and they only
Yes.
use 3 at
They
a
have
time.
Overflow. Monks have
They have
Overflow.
overflow.
The only people who don't have Overflow now is Ferals.
Feral, yeah.
Yep. And it was a huge quality of life change when we got Overflow. I mean, I feel like for any kind of resource generation class that does so in a, I guess, a quantized manner, is what you would call it, Overflow is just, it makes the rotation feel so much better and so much more fun. Well, I liked it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they did a lot of testing this expansion with passives on gear to possibly be rotated into making them baseline, but talents, very rarely have talents been yanked out and made baseline. So usually because due to their power, and the new system's supposed to be like each choice is a really powerful, point. So anticipation seems like that would be kind of a breaking thing if that was baseline for rogues. Yeah. We'll see though. We will see. So, last but not least, I want to give you both a little bit of time. I know we've had tons of talk during the episode to talk about, tips and tricks and all that good stuff, literally and figuratively. But a little bit of rogue shadow box here for you now. Do you have any closing statements, some stuff for the community, lesser-known facts, secrets, if you will, or things to throw out there to all of your fellow rogues to help them do what you guys do best? And we'll go with Dalton first.
Fix your UI.
That's like general things for
I know,
every
but
class.
it hurts rogues so much. If you can't properly track your 3 main things, you're dead in the water.
So what do you need to track? Lay them out
Slice and dice. It's impossible for it to fall off as assassination, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen logs of assassination rogues where their slice and dice has fallen off somehow, and it defies logic. It defies reason. And it hurts my feelings that things like this happen to people. But with combat, you really need a slice and dice up. People need a slice and dice counter. There's just no reason not to have it. Need to know is a good, popular.
Weak auras. I
use weak auras myself.
Weak auras?
I have weak auras for
yeah.
everything.
Quick, Sacred Duty. Does he have a weak aura string for rogues? Quick, check. Feck, have you done it? Rogue, combat subtlety, any. Yes, they're there. So there you go. Feck has already made them for you. Used by both specs, combat and subtlety. All right, there you go. He doesn't have one for assassination, apparently, because, like you said, it's cruise control for DPS.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Dalton, before we...
UI is the biggest part. My first day in Something Wicked was on beta test Throne of Thunder. I didn't have a UI on PTR. And my DPS was so horrendous that I thought I was going to fail my trial the first day.
I don't remember that.
Our GM Moshni PST'd me. He says, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah. What's wrong? I'm not running this account. I don't know what do you mean? He goes, "Well, you and Trima aren't on the same hemisphere as on recount." He was 1 and I was like 16th.
Oh, doing that healer DPS. All right.
Yeah, but then the next day, UI was back together, back to the top. So
very nice.
Happy ending there.
He's modest too. Yeah.
Of course, so modest. Yeah. Fari, what about you?
Big thing is if people want to contribute to Rogue Community, help contribute to ShadowCraft. You can all the code for it's over at GitHub. You can take a look at it. There are links at the bottom of the ShadowCraft website, and you can look at the code. You can help contribute to it. And even if you don't want to contribute, just give us eyes on code. We miss things occasionally. There are bugs get in there, like infinite DPS killing spree was a bug. I remember that was a fun one. And we need eyes. If more people get eyes on it, the better the tool is. So can help contribute to ShadowCraft, and that'd be awesome for the community.
Okay. Nothing else for anything else though. Just ShadowCraft will really help you guys out. Anything else, secrets or hints or anything like that? Or are we good?
No, most I just want people to contribute to ShadowCraft. It'll make everything better.
Yeah, it really sounds like it's obviously it's a very community driven model that it really helps with more data from more rogues, more or less. Right?
And that's a really important thing for people to get involved in the community, especially when they're getting into high level play, or if you've been a high level player for a long time and you appreciate things like this show. Like if you're watching the show, well, you can help out with that kind of thing too by getting involved with something like ShadowCraft or for your class and spec, because believe me, new players really appreciate that kind of thing, and we were all new players once. So.
I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to shots fired on these people, but there are some websites out there that are less than reputable, and their information steers people very astray. So please,
I did see some links to those websites in trade chat today.
Oh, please,
I think I did too, yeah.
But it's really, I think it's really important to do your part to spread good information to people, because that's the kind of thing, you know, one thing we didn't get into in this show is rogue population. Rogues are one of the lower populated classes, and I have to imagine that having a really active community and a really friendly community is one of the things that gets people playing a class and sticking with a class. So paladins have that. It's one of the reasons why I originally got really into Prot. It wasn't just the class, but it was the community and the tools that are available. So, you know, if you're really serious about being a rogue, get involved with ShadowCraft.
Yep, he just plugged the whole thing. You can do it. It's right there. It's super
So
easy.
easy.
Yep. All right. It's about that time. It's been a good show. Again, if you guys have questions, stick around for the after show. But first, joining us, slightly snowed in. Thank you again, Daltin Something Wicked. You can go check him out and follow him on the Twitter at DaltinSW. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you. And then, like we just talked about with ShadowCraft, you can go follow FieryDemise over on Twitter as well at FieryDemise. Super difficult. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. And the ShadowCraft link, again, will be in chat, and then we'll probably put it in the video description box on YouTube. And the other co-host of Final Boss from Something Wicked as well. Anna Phil over on the Twitter as well. Thank you, Anna.
Yes, over on the Twitters. Not really streaming all that much, although I appreciate those of you guys who have come to join me. I'm still getting into it.
Yeah, no, well, I'll have to help you. You have to let me know so I can help you with that audio stuff, because I was like, what is going on with this?
I don't always want a lot of random people coming to see my stream, because sometimes I'm just hanging out. And then,
True.
You know, but you guys are always welcome to follow my stream and see when I'm streaming, because I'm turning it on more often these days.
Yep, and that's, of course, where you'll find all of me in this face when I'm not raiding is over at BayTLM on Twitch. All my social stuff is over there. And if you didn't know, watching the show nets you MoltenCoins, which are used for future giveaways, but whenever I am live or whenever Anna is live, you also get MoltenCoins at a reduced rate, of course. We want to put emphasis on being here with the show, but when we do giveaways in the future, those that watch a lot of our personal streams and obviously the show have a better chance of getting those awesome giveaways. We don't want people to come in and snipe your awesome giveaways that we'll start doing soon. And on that note, next week, it's interesting. We're still trying to set down one more guest for this. He's been in chat tonight, so I'll probably shoehorn him into the show. But we're doing Blood Death Nights. Blood Decays next week. We have Reniat is coming on the show, and I'm pretty sure Magdalene is going to be here as well. Not specifically as a blood tank, but he does do a lot of soloing as DPS blood, so I think that'll add a neat niche to it, because that's a big part of the blood DPS community. You can kill everything and not die. All those heroic Lich King 25 solo kills, you know, whatever. That's totally fine, Blood DK. OP. But... so we'll see you next week for that at 1 p.m. PST, 4 EST, and at 10 CET. For everyone behind the scenes at Final Boss, thank you very much for watching. We will see you later. Submit your questions for Blood DKs now, and we'll see you in the YouTube comments, guys. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you in the after show in a little bit. Have a good one. Bye.
Good.